So we've got an incredible panel of experts who are working really hard to bring virtual reality to the masses and give amazing experience to all of you. So tonight we're going to answer the question, or start to answer the question, if virtual reality is actually a reality. Is it here for everyone? So I'd love to invite the panel up. Come on up, guys, and we'll take turns introducing yourselves. Give it up.
Hi, okay, all right. Hi, my name is Han. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Lucid VR. So what's my background? I worked in consumer electronics for many years, ramping up consumer products from concept stage to mass production. And then I founded a startup in data analytics a couple of years ago, which was in Y Combinator. And then I decided to go with virtual reality because it's just a very exciting space to be in, and came up with Lucid Cam, which is a stereoscopic 3D camera, which we have created. So anything I forgot? Maybe because, so excuse my strange accent, I'm from Germany, so, just a heads up.
Hey everyone, my name is Hajan. I'm the founder and managing partner at Presence Capital. We're a VC firm focused exclusively on early stage VR and AR companies. Before starting Presence, I started two companies. The first one was a social game company. We created Game Farmville, sold to Zynga in 2009. The second one was a mobile marketing company that was bought by Google last year. I spent a little bit of time at Google, not a lot of time before starting Presence. And we've done about 20 deals in the space so far. Between 100K and 500K is our check size. And we've seen a lot of stuff, so really excited to talk to everyone today about VR.
Hi, I'm Tiffany West, and I'm the principal designer at Unity Labs. Quick raise your hand. How many people know what Unity is in the audience tonight?
Wow.
That makes my job a lot easier, explaining what it is to you. So the Labs team focuses on a couple of key areas of research, artificial intelligence, advanced graphics rendering, and virtual reality. So I work primarily on our VR research area.
I am a serial entrepreneur and angel investor. I've been working in VR and related fields for the better part of the last 20 years. Currently working on a stealth startup, focusing on VR on the web, and I'm looking at angel investment deals as well.
So I'd love to start out and hear from everyone on the panel about the state of virtual reality, where things stand kind of today as we near the end of 2016.
So I mean, we are definitely doing better than 50 years ago. But I think virtual reality has moved along a lot since last year, or last couple of years. And, but I would still call it early stage because with the technology which is available, with the mass adoption, especially like in terms of how many people have a cardboard at home. Oh, not bad. So like around 50%, right? And so I would love to have everybody have a cardboard. That would be a better adoption. And we have run so many surveys in our company to check on like how many people have seen virtual reality before, and the definition for virtual reality is just a little vague right now. Many people think it's 360. Who thinks it's 360? Please don't. Okay, good. All right. So I think it's an early stage market where you have a technology which is evolving, and I think we are really getting to a stage, especially when you start looking into 4K and really high resolution quality content and more games and more available content out there, that it will take off in the next couple of years.
I like to think that this is like, iPhone came out in 2007, and we're kind of like in like 2006 still. Though everything just came out, so I guess we're 2007 now. It wasn't until 2009 that Angry Birds came out, and Words with Friends, and kind of a lot of these iconic games. It wasn't until 2010 that Uber came out. It wasn't until 2012 that Snapchat came out. So, there's going to be several years before we start to see the huge killer applications that come out for these platforms. And so a lot of what we do is we try to back entrepreneurs that we think are really smart and that are going to weather the storm for a while. And more importantly, we try to make sure that people raise enough money in order to survive until the market develops. Because even if you develop a really great product, the market may not be there, and eventually, you're not going to be judged based on potential. You're going to be judged based on your actual user and revenue traction.
I would actually be a little bit more pessimistic, at least on the hardware side. I feel like we're more in like car phone stage. When you said like a phone on bag as a backpack. Have you seen the goggles? So in the future, when we all have contact lenses, I think that will be really the ideal state of having this integrated human-computer interaction. That being said, we're starting to work on it now. That's part of the reason why Labs is working on it right now, because we do anticipate exactly what he's talking about, that there'll be a bit of a storm and a period before real adoption takes off. So what we're working on is figuring out the types of interactions that people will be using, 4 or 5 years in the future. And that's very exciting in and of itself. And then that also gives us time to figure out what's going to work well, right? Because initially when the computer came around, the personal computer, we had smart people working on it, but they didn't have a breadth of knowledge that we have now about how people work and what is a good life. It's not punch over keyboard, right? We know this. We want a better future for ourselves. We want better interactions with computers. So AR and VR really give us the ability to rethink what that experience is like.
I'm a little more bullish, actually. Who said the future's here already? It's just not evenly distributed. Was that William Gibson? Right. So in some sense, it's already here. VR has won Emmy Awards now. Henry Oculus Story Studio just won an Emmy this year. In addition, my wife sent me a text yesterday with a picture from a Marshall's, brand names for less. Marshall's a retail outlet. It was a whole shelf of VR viewers for sale in Marshall's. I kid you not. So we're going to see how this stuff happen in fits and starts. We're in an area here in the technology industry where people are pushing this really hard. The entire computer industry sees this as the future and are working feverishly at it. Yeah, the headsets are clunky is going to be the same. But I think this is going to go fast. Sure, it feels like 2008-ish, but I think between that sort of span of 7 years we saw in mobile, I think that's going to happen in a 3 or 4 year time span.
Thanks. A lot of people talk about VR as this kind of next generation computing platform, that it's kind of beyond these little experiences, and it's going to be this whole platform for development and all sorts of experiences. How many of you feel, and this is a question for everyone, whether VR as a computing platform is going to be how the sector emerges, or will there be different areas like in healthcare, education, or a major game hit that will start building up virtual reality more brick by brick?
And it's going to be a little bit of both, right? I think we're going to see in the land of the tethered headset connected to a high-end computer, the Oculus Rift, and the HTC Vive. What we're going to see there is because you really need a good new computer to run this stuff, right? The gaming upgrade cycle is going to drive that. Gamers buy the hardware first, right? They're going to get the dopest hardware to go play the best games and really into VR, and that's going to drive that segment, whereas mobile's going to be driven through video and some other segments. And the enterprise stuff is going to happen on its own track. Which one's going to hit first, I don't have any idea, but I think we're going to see a hybrid of those. And so it's not like it's going to be this thing where, next year everyone's just doing all their computing in VR, right? So when people say VR is the next computing platform, look down the road 3 or 4 years, that may be true. All of a sudden you may hit this tipping point where everyone's doing stuff through VR or AR devices. But for now, it's going to go in fits and starts in these different areas because of these different dynamics of the prices of the devices and the businesses around each application.
I agree with that. I'll throw out a couple of specific areas that I think are probably going to hit sooner rather than later. One is regions actually really matter. So I spent a few weeks ago, I went to China and spent about 2 weeks just roaming around China and seeing VR devices they were creating there were. And I think that China may end up being the first major market for VR, based on the fact that they're basically overcoming the expensive computer problem by creating VR arcades everywhere. And there's already a culture of going to these third places for internet, for your internet or your PC or whatever. So the idea of doing the high-end VR as pay to play is potentially the way that most people start to see VR adoption And because of the amount of real estate development that's happening there, there's also a need to find a way to monetize all this real estate and mall space that's being created. And so VR is this natural, new, exciting thing that everyone's really latching onto. So that may be one potential way that we start to see kind of high-end VR adoption accelerate. It probably won't be here in the US just because we don't really have arcade culture here anymore. On the mobile side, you know, the problem with VR in general as a main computing platform is that it tends to withdraw you from reality. So you have to find contexts in which you're able to essentially shut off the world around you. Like I could not put a VR headset on right now in front of all you. It just would be too weird and I would be shut off from, you know, the people around me. But on something like, maybe you want that. But a case where it works really well is on a place like a plane. And so there's companies now that are starting to find ways of, rather than, you know, view kind of the crappy little screen in the back of the seat, you know, you get a VR headset instead. So you're on a plane, you're on a 5-hour flight, you put on this VR headset and you're like in a movie theater watching, you know, the same movies that you would be on that small screen. So there's cases where VR is actually a 10x better experience. And those are the areas where you're going to find the adoption kind of pick up first.
Yeah, I would agree with that, especially like if you look into Western countries versus Asia. In Western countries, I would say it's more evolving through verticals. And I think it's also because it's how you address virtual reality, especially in the beginning, is important because it's more conservative kind of, because you are trying to generate revenue of your business model and then trying to build your company based on that. In China, because so I was there as well just a couple of months ago, and there's just a lot of cash floating right now into virtual reality. And those startups are backed with 50 million, 100 millions of dollars, and they're just having an idea. So you can imagine like how much you can scale, right, and how much you can drive. And of course, in China, it's the place where you can drive a lot of volume, right? A lot of people are getting very excited. We were there early on last year with a product which was not kind of ready. It was like 1080p, very low resolution, and they were so excited about it, and they wanted to grab it out of my hands and just buy it. I was like, oh, in the United States, nobody would look at it. But over there, they really want to play with it, and they are, enjoying the fact that something is cheap, affordable, and easy to use, versus here it's more conservative in terms of if the quality is not 4K, like my TV has 4K, why should I buy yours, right? And those kind of things are like the big contrast between the two areas.
My impression of how VR is going to percolate is largely based on it goes wherever it's easiest to go. And I mean this both like in terms of expense and also cognitive overhead. So in China, they're already used to going to certain places to experience high-end technology. America is not. We think of it as a very like home-based private thing. So if you wanted to have an arcade in America, you'd have to break down that cognitive barrier before you can get to the expense of building out these expensive arcades. But when it comes to things like car companies, heavy industry companies, it's easier to just use VR. It's cheaper, right? And it means that you make less mistakes. So they're going to jump in first on that end. And then there are things that it is more fun to do in VR, or easier to do in VR, like drawing in 3 dimensions or shooting zombies. And so we're going to do that in VR first on the consumer side. So as soon as it gets easier and easier, we'll do it more.
Is gaming something you're looking at strongly, and otherwise, like what is attracting investment dollars for you in terms of virtual reality?
So it's rare for us to fund games in general. In fact, if you were building a mobile game back in 2008 and you're like, hey, will you fund this? I'd probably say no then too. Not because there's not potential, but rather because gaming as an investment and as a company is pretty hard to fund. A gaming studio is pretty hard to fund. So most of the game studios that we've funded, there's something bigger about what they're building. So it's not about funding a project, it's about funding some sort of repeatable platform or network effect or some other sort of bigger business that comes out of it. So, one example, the first investment we ever did was this company called Harmonix. They built the game Rock Band. Now you're wondering why would we just fund that? Well, it's because they own all the music licenses. So when you think about music as a potential experience in VR, it's actually one of the most compelling experiences in VR. The idea of standing on stage and being a drummer or a singer or whatever is actually really compelling, and it's even made to where it's much more compelling when it's music So they've already gone through the Rock Band series of games that they had on like the PlayStation and Xbox. They already have all the licenses, they have the DLC. And so in their case, it's about taking that existing music platform, creating the VR experience, and then selling lots of DLC on top of it. So that's a much more scalable business than selling a single one-off title. That being said, the first companies that are going to make a lot of money in VR are almost all going to be gaming companies. We're already seeing it on some of the launch titles for the Oculus and for the Vive have done very well. Some have done tens of millions of dollars. I think CCP, the guys who make Eve, just announced that they paid back the investment in that game. So that's really good for the ecosystem. But other than that, I mean, in terms of stuff that we're investing outside of content, the majority of it is like infrastructure tools, kind of these like other types of companies. But gaming is super interesting. I think it's going to be a massive use case. It just turns out that regardless of VR or not, it's kind of hard to invest in unless there's kind of a bigger play that you're going after.
You should definitely everyone should pick Tony's brain after this panel. Tony's been in virtual reality and 3D since the 90s, so he saw that wave in the 90s. So Tony, I'd love to ask you now, looking back in the 90s and now in virtual reality era today, what's really exciting you about VR in 2016, and how are you able to kind of learn from the past and say what are the pitfalls that we really want to avoid as an industry?
So all the excitement about VR in the early 90s, and I actually got into 3D visualization just after that. I was getting together with some refugees from the first crash of the first wave of consumer VR attempted in the early 90s. It's really about timing, and what is different now that excites me is that we can make the electronics much more cheaply. We can make things that are much more comfortable. So these small, affordable pieces of hardware. We did not have that when I was doing this before. We have people who now, like 2 generations of folks who know how to create content and stuff. They've been building 3D for game engines, doing CAD modeling. You know, the modeling tool Blender, this free open source thing, it's got like 2 million plus users, right? And now my kid's 3D modeling not because he wants to follow in dad's footsteps, but because it's what you do. You learn this stuff instead of Photoshop, right? So we had generations of content creators. We didn't have to work versed in the visual language and the design, right? We didn't have that before. And finally, and the most important thing is we have digital natives. We have consumers now who are grown up with smartphones. You know, you hear all these stories of 3 and 4-year-old kids who, like, if you give them a print magazine, they'll pinch it to zoom it, right? Because they're actually digital first. And you know, the generations that are a little bit older than that grew up in video games, they grew up in 3D, CD movies. So the expectation is that the world should just work like this. So some of the crusty old folks in my age cohort may be skeptical about VR, especially if they've got a few sort of pioneering, scars and arrows in the back. But the fact is the world has changed significantly from all those 3 factors in the last 20 years. So I'm just mostly excited about the timing of these 3 things that have come together.
Timothy, I have a question for you. So a lot of people know about Unity. It's this amazing platform that underpins so much of what's being built in VR today. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what Unity's up to.
Labs is working on 2 big projects right now for virtual reality. The first, some of you are doing VR development right now. So before I finish my statement, I'm going to ask you a question. What is like your biggest pain point in web development? Does anybody want to offer up, or in VR development, does anybody want to offer up a pain point?
Shout it out.
Frame rate.
Frame rate, okay, that's a good example. Okay, so that's something we're definitely addressing. Just figuring out how to make sure that you can maintain frame rate. If you drop your frames, things get slow, you get dizzy, you get sick, you can't use VR anymore. Labs specifically is also working on putting things like the profiler and console in virtual reality, so as you're actually building out your VR experience, you can see when your frame rates drop. You don't just have to wait until you get sick and you know what's going on. So putting the editor in VR is no small feat. You guys are pretty familiar with it, so you know it's a complicated interface. So we're not only trying to get all this functionality into a completely new sort of environment, but we're also trying to figure out new ways of doing things like what is a drop down in VR? Like what is input and where does your keyboard go? How big is it and how do you interact with it? So these are the kind of things that we're thinking about every day. So that's for developers because they need this like right now. And we're also thinking about how consumers will be able to make experiences in VR. Because if VR is the new web, if we're genuinely building the metaverse, then a website is not a website anymore, it's like a world. So how do we let people make worlds and experience these worlds and go to other people's worlds? So that's the other big project we're working on. Getting anybody, like from small children to grandparents, to be able to make worlds that they can share in the metaverse.
So LucidCam, your product is going to make it easier for people to capture kind of a full view photo and video, syncing with your phone. So I'm curious about your thinking behind kind of smartphone VR and immersive experiences captured on smartphone, and also how you kind of see the trajectory of smartphone VR against hardcore systems like an Oculus or a Vive.
Right. So over the last couple of years, we worked a lot in user testing. So we give our camera, which is pretty much functioning like the human eye. You capture depth as well as peripheral vision. So it's like a 180 degree, and then people are asking like, why are you building a 180 degree? And if you observe, and you really focus on bringing virtual reality to the masses, talking to some of the retailers, they say it's very difficult to take off because right now, like at Best Buy, nobody buys actually, not so many people buy at the end consumer side a virtual reality headset. And also like driving 360 camera sales is very difficult because people come and like, how do I need to hold it? Is it here, here, here? How do I capture? We spend a lot of time just making sure that the camera gives you control over the scene you are capturing, the same way human eyes would see it. You can point and shoot, which gives you the adoption of traditional 3D cameras, which have been around for a couple of years. And so pairing that with a mobile phone makes it very easy from caption to seeing what you have captured. And so what we really focus on is like mobile VR is number one for us because like, I don't know if you've seen like Samsung Gear VR being really dominating in the market, way more, selling way better than like the Oculus, right? And so I think that will dominate in the next couple of years as well, the adoption of virtual reality itself. And then when Oculus prices will drop, that's when it actually becomes better and better for people to afford it. And of course, the mobile part about it is very important. Right now in Oculus, you have to plug into a desktop and run it with a very strong processing computer. And I don't think everybody has one of those computers at home. I'm not sure, but I don't have one. And so since smartphone technology is becoming actually better, like for example, the GPU, CPU setups right now, like for example, for like the Samsung S7, over time you will see like how fast the frame rate goes up, the resolution goes up, and the performance goes up. And that's going to dominate the market.
Are you all seeing experiences emerge on smartphone VR that feel unique and differentiated and kind of worthwhile compared to more hardware solutions for everyone?
Not a category, but I think Land's End is one of the best VR experiences out there now, and that's out for gear. But yeah, that's a stellar example of a head direction selection mechanic, and that's really tough on the nail and how to feel good.
Actually, we saw, so we did multiple verticals, like different applications of where VR can be used. And the most traction we got on sports. I mean, that's very similar to what NextVR does, but people were just viewing it more often. I don't know why. Maybe they wanted to be sitting next to the court side, next to the players when they're dunking. But I don't know, but it really drives like the people towards watching VR videos.
Great. This is a question for Timothy and then open up to everyone. But with virtual reality, there's going to be all of these kind of new languages emerging for user experience. How is that defined in VR? Storytelling, when the user themselves can control a lot of the narrative. So how are you starting to think about defining these principles and giving people the tools to build, and even just conceptualizing how to, where to start?
Yeah, so a couple different ways. For some of my ideas, we actually did a lot of cardboard prototyping where you just cut up pieces and glue them together and be like, this seems like it should be the right size, right? Actually, Tilt Brush, if you have access to Tilt Brush, is an excellent way to just draw things out and do some basic wireframing. But there are some best practices emerging already. I hesitate to call them best practices exactly because I do think the controllers will change and inputs will change over time. But for what we have right now, things like having 2 triggers to scale, this is something that's pretty common common, and I think will become like a real design pattern that is as familiar as using high-tech clothes is now for a regular computer. So some of that is just sort of percolating naturally in the community as people try out things. And then there's some really innovative UIs. Like how many of you have tried out Fantastic Contraption, which has, okay, so a few of you, and for those who don't know, they have an inventory for the game that is a big cat that purrs and comes towards you like farting pink clouds. And this is the UI element. And it is a game, right? So they can kind of do what they want. But a lot of what they did around how the cat moves towards you and how you can call it, yeah, we're stealing that like wholesale. We double click to call UI elements back to you too, because that's a good design pattern and it's something that's worth repeating. So we have that. And my intern this summer actually spent about 80% of her time in virtual reality trying out all of the experiences, all of the high-end experiences. Best internship ever, right? So, but then she had to write them all down in a spreadsheet and come up with a series of design patterns that are worth noting down, things that are unusual or interesting or consistent across a variety of patterns. What are the button mappings like? What are the cameras like? And so on. What do you use for locomotion? So we're going to have that out as a wiki in the next month. So anyone can contribute to that. It'll be a community effort. But rather than dictating best practices at this point, I think it's very important to just get them written down. Because we know not everyone has access to VR at this point. We know it's expensive and it's time consuming. So just having the ability to see what other people are working on just at your desk without having to put on a headset, we think there's no value there.
Great.
I think something that really moved us forward on mobile was when Apple basically came out with their design guidelines for iOS, right? And I don't know if people here remember, but like, I mean, mobile UX is still evolving. There was a time when pull refresh was like a dramatically, new UX innovation. Now it's like every single app has one. Yeah, there's like one guy came out with it, right? So like, I think that that we're going to see a lot of this start to come out, especially when Apple and Google. I mean, you guys are doing amazing work as well. But like I think a lot of it's going to be like, Google's coming out with their Daydream platform later this year. Apple, knock on wood, hopefully next year. It seems all the hardware's almost there. So I think when those platforms start to come out, you're also going to see a lot of kind of UX thought put into it, just because they're very incentivized to make sure that people don't get sick, which is really the thing that you're trying to avoid with VR.
Just a quick counterpoint to that, though. I think he's absolutely right. I think we're going to see these tech giants come out and have really powerful hits. The interesting thing about VR is that the controllers are very different. Like mice are pretty much standardized for computers, and most smartphones are now touch. But the controllers for the Vive are very different than the ones for the Oculus, and the ones for Google Daydream don't even have full tracking. So at least in terms of how you pick up an object in VR right now, it's going to be different, and it's going to be different for a while. But I like that because it keeps it exciting.
Okay, I'm going to take this question a little bit different from a production perspective and camera perspective. So we have tested a lot with 360 cameras and 180 cameras how to tell a story. We had to experiment with coloring, with lights, with sounds, like where the sound is coming from in order to gain attention. So we experimented a lot with how does a person generate attention. Do you need to create tension in the story in order to make them feel like, oh, they need to focus on something? So especially like in 360, it's a big hassle because they could be looking anywhere and they could be totally missing your entire story. So how are you going to keep them excited about it? So our producer, who is actually here tonight, she played around with making 3D sound coming from different directions. And then the person would turn towards that sound, paying attention to that sound, and then leveraging that attention to drive a story around where they're focusing on. Also, since our camera also does 180, it tells the story from a first-person perspective. So that means it zooms you right into her shoes when she was capturing it. And by having 180, we have actually more control over the storytelling and would be able to give them immersion in 3D, but at the same time also being able to control what they see. And that's on the production side.
Today in the 2D digital world, there's Squarespace and WordPress and things like that for building websites. But there seems to be this notion that in VR, building things and making things will be available for non-coders and non-developers. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that and how and why VR could be that medium to kind of redefine who builds things digitally.
So here's why it's really kind of much more intuitive. If you think about like, how many people here have seen like a kid use a tablet before, right? Yeah, I'm sure you have. But like, the point is they pick it up, they see some things, they start touching it, it interacts with them, it's just natural. So I've put a lot of people through tilt brush demos who are very technically unsavvy. And the thing you realize is that like, we are closer to our natural human way of interacting with stuff in VR, especially when you have hand track controls, than any other computing mechanism before, because it's, when you're in full 3D and you're interacting in 3D space, you're doing this every day anyways. The only difference is you're doing it with real atoms instead of kind of fake polygons. And so when we think about like why VR is such a such a great mechanism for allowing people to create, is because it's bringing it closer to the real world than anything we've seen before us. Tilt brush is really incredible, and the people who start using it just are able. They press a button, they're like, oh, I get it. They start writing their names, they start drawing trees. It happens within like 3 minutes. It's incredible. And so what we're starting to see now is people taking the things that are created in Tilt Brush and Oculus Medium and start to export that back out to the real world. So there's multiple companies that are trying to take 3D editing in VR and apply that to things like creating jewelry or creating 3D models, or applying for 3D printing or for architecture, furniture shopping. So because it's such a natural interface, it allows technology to get out of the way. It allows your creativity to express itself.
Just to add to that, the more we learn about the brain, the more we know that memory recall is tied to location. As you move around, you trigger grid cells, and that ties into the whole how you recall things later on. So there's some components of that can be triggered in VR as well. So as well as it feeling familiar, it also is just people are used to arranging things spatially, and for the first time you can really arrange things in a spatial way that feels natural to you. But I also want to take it back to AR for a second, which we haven't talked about much. I think there's just, VR is the first step. I think it won't be the last step. I think AR, or what we think of as AR now, is much closer to the future of what will have in 50 years. So just being able to walk around your home and sort of have these like visual-based triggers, like you get near the door and it reminds you about your keys, and having your life be a little bit more spatially arranged, and not even have to have a phone in your pocket. I think that is where the world starts to feel like it was designed for you, it was designed for humans, the way they think about it. So this is one step in that direction, that natural feeling.
So that's all the cognition stuff, but to me what resonates, personally, by the way, I think Tilt Brush is the first killer app for VR. I mean, people searching for the killer app, you don't have to search, it's Tilt Brush. How many folks here know what Second Life is? Heard of Second Life? Virtual world, right? Everybody thinks that's a place to go socialize and dance around and get a lap dance or a virtual avatar. It's probably actually the other on the other end somewhere. So what it's really about is people making stuff and sharing it with each other. And Second Life reached a sort of plateau of success just because of scaling issues and this big fat DC client and all this other stuff. But what came after that in the form of Minecraft and Roblox and these other systems for creating, they're oriented more toward adolescents, it's true, the 8 to 12-year-olds, showed that we all have this creative impulse and we really all want to express ourselves that way. And I think the closer these tools get to being intuitive, and anyone can be able to learn them quickly and then ultimately put some time in the classroom, the more we're going to see people creating and sharing stuff like this. And so the Minecraft VR, maybe Minecraft, whatever, but it's probably not going to be. It's going to be something that follows Tilt Brush and Medium and all these new VR native products that are going to be created. And I personally think that's going to be a huge category in VR over the next 3 or 4 years.
So from our perspective, we believe truly in user-generated content. We want to make you be the builder. And since most of you probably don't have the technical skills to code or just build it, what we have done is enable it through a camera device which you can capture something in 3D. And to make it simple, why 3D will help you is because the content you capture with our camera, we take it to the next level, which means we take the content and we 3D reconstruct the entire place which you have captured. Now you have a virtual environment which looks the same like your living room, and you can interact with it. And so I really believe if that one, I know our technology is very early, but if that takes off, that more and more people will create virtual reality environments, and with just one click of a button. And that's what we believe in user-generated content.
We're going to do a quick lightning round with some short questions, short answers, and then we're going to get to your questions. So let's make this just a few minutes. Okay, and we're going to have to hot potato this single microphone down the line. Okay, Android or iPhone? Go.
iPhone.
In terms of VR?
No, just in terms of like personal preference.
Okay.
iPhone until I have to get a 7. I'm not getting the 7.
Yeah, iPhone 6.
iPhone 6.
Okay, keep it down there. Oculus or cardboard?
Oculus.
That is not a question. 5.
Oh.
I'm a Vive guy myself.
Okay.
Yeah, HTC Vive.
Okay, I like it. Breaking the rules. Thank you. Since you brought up AR, VR or AR? Like, what do you prefer? What's going to be with us for the longest haul?
AR.
AR is going to replace all screens, so 100% AR.
I think the real question is like into the brain or into the eyes.
You're such a rebel today. VR.
Very cool. All right, a couple of quick personal ones. The scariest thing you've ever done?
What I'm doing now, starting my third startup.
Yes.
I'm really boring. I don't know. Like, driving a car statistically, I think.
Deciding to sell my first startup.
Okay, non-startup related, horror movies and virtual reality. That zombie was like standing on me, and I had no clue what's going on.
Great. All right, the last one, biggest fail. You guys are all super successful people, so it might be inspirational to hear about, very quickly, big failure.
First startup, terrible failure. Nothing happened afterwards. Had to shut it down. Spent a lot of time and money into it, and yeah, but it helps to learn and grow.
Thanks.
When I was a first-time manager, not trusting my team enough to, own their outcomes and trust them to do their jobs well.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, I would say also, well, as a startup I joined, it didn't work out. I was very sad. And also my first startup, I guess.
One of my startups I won't mention, but I made the mistake of hiring my own boss to get money, listening to all the voices and other, that were coming from other people. And he who shall not be named did not do a good job running that, and so that was a bad move. Not going to do that.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for sharing all that. Give it up for the panelists, guys.